Hey everyone, it's Hurley from Inklips, and today I'm going to be using 5 different stamp sets to create 4 inspiring and fun cards jam-packed with techniques for the January Altenew blog hop. There's also going to be much more information and giveaways at the end of this video, as well as over on my blog, inklips.com, so stay tuned for that, and I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and hop along for the other designers as well, but let's get started. Now let me just say and start off this video by saying this stamp set is my favorite. Just something about these succulents and the lights just drew my heart in when I saw the beginning of the release. So I'm just going to show you a couple of different quick coloring techniques that are kind of whimsical to color these in. And the thing that I love about coloring the succulents and these lights in is they don't really look perfect. They don't have to be perfect. They're different every single time, and that's what I love about them. So for this first one, I'm using super bright pops of color, and I'm blending them 2 totally different shades of colors using the tip-to-tip technique. Then for this second one, I'm using this minty green kind of color and adding some bright colors to it as well. Now what I figured out about these cactuses is if you mess up or make a mistake anytime throughout the video, just color over top of it. The cactuses don't have to be perfect, and they don't really look perfect by the way I color them in either. They just look fun and cheerful and nobody will ever notice. So for this last one, I'm kind of color blocking it, doing some colors that don't really blend together that are super different shades. Then for this vase, I'm adding just a little bit of a pattern on it to differ from the other vases in the set that I colored. So then I've cut them all out with a white border around it, and I'm adding some shimmer pen on it so that it adds a little bit of shimmer onto the cactuses without having any of the glitter come off if you're afraid of glitter like I am. Then I'm using this Memento Tuxedo Black ink to stamp my background, and let me just say, these lights are what drew my heart in and made this stamp set so complete for me. Altenew definitely did it with this one. So I'm speeding this process up and stamping the whole background down. I'm making it look like the lights were kind of strung a little bit uneven and kind of wonky here. They're all different, and I didn't mean to stamp it perfect any of these times, and I love how it looked in the end, just to create a background, and this is definitely what I envisioned right when I saw this stamp set. So then color the lights in, and I'm using a bunch of different orange and yellow colors here. Now I definitely envisioned these as super colorful as well, you could do that or whatever, but I wanted to keep it super simple and just kind of country, twangy kind of vibes with these cactuses and things like that. So just keeping it super simple, but you can add whatever kind of pops of colors you want in here, and I think it would look just awesome. I'm finishing off the tops with just some gray, but also you could use some silver here too. I didn't really think of that while I was going. And then I'm just going to add some glow around the light, because what is a light bulb without its glow? So I'm just adding some super simple just glow lines around here. You can really do this however you want to, with even a lighter yellow marker would work as well. And then I'm stamping the sentiment down, which I love, that just says, remind yourself it's not okay to be perfect. Just perfect for these cactuses. And then I'm adding it all down onto my card. I've used foam tape to add it all down. I've centered everything. And then I'm going to add some glossy accents to all of the light bulbs. This seems like kind of a time-consuming process here, but this is just how I envisioned it. This whole card was just a dream to me. So I'm adding the glossy accents on using my fine tip applicator here, and you can even get right underneath those cactuses since they're up on foam tape. So now for the second card, I'm going to show you how to do some watercolor stamping with the Altenew inks. I'm using this hibiscus layering stamp set, which again, I just love. I love the whole release, not gonna lie. So I'm stamping it down using some black waterproof ink, and I'm kind of layering the whole scene and setting the whole scene for all the different watercoloring stamping that we're doing today. And I like starting with these lined images that are in black, because they're basically the full image that you're going to get. And so when you're putting the whole scene together, you know what you're going to get, instead of starting off with the image that layers on top, because then the lines might be a little bit bigger than that and it might not fit all together. So I would definitely recommend starting off with the black outline. So now it's time for the watercolor stamping part, and these inks, let me just tell you, work amazing for watercoloring. They're kind of like a 2-in-1, and they're amazing ink too. So I'm basically inking up my stamp with them, which is the layering image that goes right on top, and then I'm going to water it down with a water brush and line it up with the image and then stamp it right down, and it just looks stunning once you're finished. Now I've tried multiple ways to do this beforehand. You could tell I tried with the red there beforehand, and this was the one that was the most vibrant while still keeping the shape and looking like watercolor, and I really love the way that it looks, and it's not super messy either as well, so it definitely turns out really cool, and there's not much of a cleanup in the end. While you're stamping these layering images, it might be a little bit harder to line up in your head, especially with these hibiscus ones. They don't match up perfectly, and they're just kind of a general inside to fill the whole thing in. So just make sure you're stamping kind of close to where you think it would be, and it looks pretty great in the end. It's not really meant for a perfect look, it's more of a painted look, kind of like we're doing today. So it's perfectly fine if you get it off-centered a little bit and you don't want to restart your whole new card. So I'm just continuing on with my stamping here. For the leaves, I'm using varying different shades of the colors, and also for the regular flowers, I tended to use the colors from the same kind of color line of darkness from the Altenew inks. So then I'm taking my water brush after they've kind of dried but not sat there for too long, and I'm just going to soften some of the edges here and kind of blend out some of the color. This gives it just a little bit more of a watercolor look to it, and kind of blends it out just a little bit more rather than just plain stamping, and makes it look that much more like you watercolored this in, rather than just stamping it with a little bit of water and ink, and it gives a really cool effect. So then I'm taking just a regular piece of black cardstock. I use my anti-static powder tool so nothing would stick to it. And then I'm stamping "Thanks, crafty friends are the best" in Versamark ink, and then I'm going to heat emboss it in white, and then I'm going to heat it up, and this gives you a nice white, bold, crisp sentiment on top of the black cardstock. If you find you have any stray embossing powder flecks, just make sure to flick those off beforehand before you heat it up. Then I'm going to cut that out and set it on the center of my card with some foam tape and adhere it down. And then I'm adding it onto a little strip of black cardstock just on the right peeking out there, and then adding it to a top folding card base, and that finishes off this card and on to the next one. For this next card, I wanted to make a long rectangle card with the rose blooming on it, so I took my Misty and I'm lining up all these images, making sure they're straight, and the Misty definitely helps with that, and it also lets you stamp it more than once if you want to. And I'm laying out all these roses. I'm going to pick them up and stamp them down using some black Copic friendly ink. Now if you need to stamp it twice, you definitely can, since it's using the Misty and things like that, and I'm going to give it lots of good pressure and then stamp down the sentiment beneath it as well, making sure everything's completely lined up here. Then to color it in, I'm just going to be using some Copic markers and some really simple blending with a bunch of different reds. I love the look of this card. There is a lot more rose stamps that you could use. I decided to just leave a couple out, but you could make a longer card and extend it a little bit with less room in between each one to make the full blooming phase of the roses. But I just decided to keep it super simple and just do 4 of them here and make a little bit of a shorter kind of rectangular card. I love the different shape of it though. And I also love this sentiment that we stamped down that says, "Make today so amazing, yesterday gets jealous." Just all the sentiments in these are awesome. So I'm just blending this out, making sure that the shadows are kind of where it would cast shadows on from the inner petals, and then it gives it a lot of different depth and dimension from the card. So then after I'm doing that, I'm taking this blue marker here, which is really light blue marker, and I'm just going around the outside just to give a little bit of interest. And then I'm going to take my alcohol ink blending marker or my Copic blender, whatever you guys have, and just dotting it around the rose. This gives it a little bit of a different texture and kind of adds a little bit to your card. It'll give it kind of a blotchiness. Since my card was too big for just a regular card base with 8.5 by 11 cardstock, I decided to just cut a piece and then score it a little bit. And then I'm folding that down, and this will be the part where I can adhere the other panel on top of it to make an actual card that will open up really nicely. This makes it long enough so I can add it on my card panel onto the card base, and I have a little bit of black peeking out. So after I'm done with that, I'm adding the card panel on using some foam tape, and then I'm going to add some glossy accents, a little bit of a thin layer of glossy accents to every single one of these roses. This just gives it a glossy effect, and I'm literally obsessed with glossy accents. For this last card here, we're going to do some stamping that goes kind of an ombre and using the Misty. So I'm taking all of these solid stamps from a stamp set that you can stamp all the different roses and flowers in it with all the different vases, and I'm going to do some different ombre stamping where it fades from different colors. So basically I'm inking up my stamps using a bunch of different colored inks, and then I'm going to blot it off on the edges where it will blend into each other so that there's not such a harsh line there, and I'm just using a little bit of a rag here. And then I'm going to stamp it down onto my piece. Now it won't turn out perfect each time, and for each color you need about 3 layers I found, and that gives it just perfect coverage, and I'm using my Misty so it can line up straight every single time here. This is kind of a quick and fun and easy card, and I would love to experiment with a bunch of different colors. I'm using purples, pinks, yellows, greens, and blues here, and they're all really super bright colors, and again I'm just stamping them down onto the stamps and then blotting it on the edges and then blending it all together and then stamping it down. This just gives it a really nice blended effect, and all these inks smooth out after they're done too, so it'll give it a nice soft effect as well. I could definitely see using this with all the Altenew inks. It'll be really cool if you guys do that. And then I'm going to take all of the different lined images that are in the stamp set, and I'm going to be stamping them down right on top. I love using the MISTI for this. It saves so much time and effort. And then I'm going to just line all the stamps up, ink them up with some black waterproof ink, and then stamp it down right on top. It gives you that nice detailed effect, and I love how all these images have filled in images and then the lined ones, so it's super easy coloring, especially with the MISTI. I'm stamping down this sentiment from a different stamp that just says hello. I cut that out and I'm adding it on to the center using some foam tape. Then I'm adding this onto a card base using some foam, and this was super simple, but again, super simple cards using these stamp sets look just awesome and stunning, which I just love how all these turned out today. They're all pretty darn simple, but I love the effect that they all give. So here are all the cards in their final glory that we made today. I just loved creating these. There were a bunch of other designers that also created cards for this hop and a bunch of other inspiration. So be sure to keep hopping along and enjoy all of the different inspiration using all these awesome new products. Now onto the giveaways. Altenew is giving away 3 different $50 certificates to their store, and I'm also going to be giving away a $30 gift certificate that they've offered up and been so generous to give away at my blog. So be sure to hop over to inkclips.com. I'll leave a link in the description box below so you guys can go check that out. Head over there. There's much more links and information with everybody's blog there, and also about the giveaways and things like that. So I hope you guys will check it out. So on screen, there's more videos of my content that you can watch if you really want to, but if you want to keep hopping along the hop, which I really encourage you guys to do, there's links on the sides to hit the subscribe button to my channel if you want to see much more of my content and you found me through this. And there's also a link to my blog where, like I said, there'll be much more information over there. Have a great day, and I'll see you soon.